so good, you guys. So good. So freaking good. So good. So good. Hi, my name is Adriana, and today I will be reviewing the War Trilogy. So I am relatively late to this series. This is a series that has been popular on BookTube since its inception, and there's a reason for it. It is incredible. It has been talked about many, many times on this website, as well as book blogs, and I'm assuming TikTok probably, and Bookstagram and everything. And so I finished this series, really wanted to talk about it, and wasn't quite sure how I was going to be able to add to the conversation without it feeling a little repetitive, because I'm going to say a lot of the same things about these books that I assume a lot of other people have as well. To add to my discussion, I am also going to put up a little tutorial of how I painted these nails to match the books. I guess I need to reorganize these. To match the books. If you're not interested in hearing my thoughts, you can just mute this video, watch the tutorial, or if you are interested in hearing my thoughts, you know, keep listening to me. I have very many thoughts, as you can see from all of my book darts. Many, many thoughts, many annotations, many good vibes. Well, not necessarily always good vibes.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
But we'll get into that. So if that at all sounds interesting to you, please consider liking and commenting on this video and subscribing to my channel if you like bookish things. Let's roll the tutorial. You can watch it. It's got instructions. I'm not gonna say anything more about it. We're gonna ignore it. It's here, it's going, it's vibing. So to start with kind of my thoughts of the series as a whole, so good. So good. I love, love, love this series. And a general kind of synopsis, introduction. In book one, we start with a young peasant girl named Rin who takes a entrance test to an elite military academy to try to get out of her situation of poverty. She is a war orphan taken in by a family who wants nothing to do with her, and she decides that this is her way to get out of poverty, to get a good life, to really make the most of what she can do. And right away we see she is one of the most determined people to have ever been written. She is using hot candle wax to burn herself to keep her awake so she can continue to study longer. She's memorizing these insane huge texts of classic literature within their society so that she can pass this test, get into the academy, and get going. Obviously, she does pass this test, otherwise there wouldn't be a book. And she takes off to the big city to go to this academy and soon realizes that she is a bit out of her element. This test, while getting her into the academy, doesn't really give her the prestige, the correct socioeconomic background she needs to really thrive at this academy. She's in there with a bunch of rich kids who have had access to tutors and combat specialists their entire lives to have helped them learn everything they need to know about what's going on. And she is just some hick farm kid who is there doing her best. While she's there, she gets introduced to a form of shamanism that allows her to access a fire god, and then she gets some fire powers, which are super dope and come in real handy when their country of Nakara goes to war with the neighboring country of Mugan. Historical context, literary context to this book. Nakara represents kind of World War II era China. Mugen kind of represents maybe not quite World War II era Japan, but a lot of the atrocities committed by this Muganese army are very similar to a lot of the stuff Japan did to China in World War II. So if you are squeamish at all, definitely backtrack from this series as a whole. Very violent, very dark. It's grimdark, but it is so freaking good. From here, that's book one. Book two. The war with the enemy abroad has come to a close, and now we are seeing a little bit of a civil war action happening. So one side is a European, they're called Hesperian in the book, but they're a stand-in for the Europeans. They are a European-backed Republican army fighting to make the country a democracy, Then on the other side, we have the imperial nationalists. So the Empress is obviously imperial nationalist against these European-backed Republicans, and obviously that makes for very interesting conflict. Very, very good. The last one, we kind of finish up the Civil War. We see what is going to happen in the aftermath of this many, many years of fighting a different country, fighting their own countrymen, and what do you do after that? How do you rebuild after such an incredible loss of people, of agrable land, of motivation to keep going? And so that is kind of general overarching plot of all three and the series as a whole. So with that out of the way, we will start talking about Rin, our main character. She is chef's kiss anti-heroine. My boyfriend has been my boyfriend has been rewatching the Breaking Bad TV show. So I've been kind of, watching it-ish along with him. I haven't been watching every episode, but I'm kind of like coming in and out for different episodes. And the whole anti-hero thing, I didn't really get it. Like I was never really interested in Breaking Bad. I wasn't super into anti-heroes until I started reading this series, and now I get it. I get why people like anti-heroes. As I mentioned, kind of in my synopsis of the first book, Rin is so determined. She will work her ass off to get where she wants to go in life. And that is just something that is so, you have to root for it so hard because she wants it so bad. And you could see how her determinants and her perseverance, both very, very positive attributes, have been twisted by this world she's been living in to cause her to be such a morally gray person. And you could see how if she had had a better upbringing, a better time in school, better mentorship, better guidance. And in the first book, we do kind of see her with this mentor figure who is trying to kind of reroute her determinism into something more positive. She ends up losing that mentor figure, and again, when she's kind of on her own floundering, she takes that determinants, that perseverance, and it goes a little haywire. And so you see a couple times where it almost seems like she's in a really good situation. She is with someone she really, really trusts, and it just breaks and goes haywire. And that can only happen to someone so many times before the entire person just breaks down. I can really see now why people like anti-heroes, and watching that slow kind of spiral into not someone who's ultimately a villain, but someone who has definitely done really villainous things. And that is something I really, really appreciate about the way Rin as a character is written. She grows throughout the series. I mean, obviously physically growing. She starts at 16. I think we end with her around 21. She's also growing in her skill set. She's getting much better with her shamanism. She's learning so much about military strategy. She's growing in her relationships, but she doesn't really fundamentally change as a person. This isn't a sort of character arc where we see her start as someone who is timid, shy, unsure of herself, and then at the end becomes this big, confident hero. Like, she's always been confident. She's always been determined. She's always been goal-oriented and ambitious. And she stays that way the entire series. But you see how all of these outside influences take those core parts of her being and affect the actions she performs. She grows, but she doesn't change. And I think that is really, really cool and something I wasn't really expecting going into this. And because we see her moral compass kind of wiggle wobble around, and this is, all three books are from her point of view, the other characters in the books kind of change in your own mind based on how she's interacting with them and how she's seeing those characters. So someone who could be a bad guy in the first book becomes a good guy in the second book, becomes a bad guy again in the third book, and vice versa. And even within the same book, someone can go from good to bad to good, or bad to... It's incredible. These books are so good, you guys. I obviously have many, many feelings about these books, but I really don't want to spoil anything because I really want everybody to read them. Just some kind of final thoughts on the series. My favorite book is the middle one. And that is because I think it is the most theme-based. We discuss a lot of themes on religion, on colonialism, because like I had mentioned, this is the one kind of on the Civil War within the country of Nicara and the European-backed Republicans versus the imperial nationalists. And so being able to compare their own shamanistic, polytheistic based religion compared to the European monotheistic, very Christianity adjacent religion was a really cool topic to look into. There was a lot of themes of addiction, physical addiction to things like drugs, emotional addiction to things like people and wanting to belong somewhere, and how those things can be linked together and how you can give up one kind of addiction and you kind of leave a vacuum within yourself and you're open to being manipulated by someone else until you kind of learn to accept and heal within yourself. Neither side of this civil war, I think, can really be thought of as the good side. Obviously, on the surface, it seems like someone who is fighting for democracy would be the good guy, but they're not necessarily setting themselves up in a way that it seems like it's going to be a good, sustainable democracy. Being European backed and all of the baggage that comes with European colonialism, that doesn't seem great. And so this whole republic democracy seems like kind of a veil for what could be more of a European colonialism sort of setup. On the other side, we have the imperial nationalists who obviously want to keep and maintain their own culture that they have built over the past 1,000 years, but the Empress has done some pretty shady stuff, and, you know, reading from an American perspective, you never think that an absolute monarchy is the way to go. So that's kind of just my own bias as a reader. It's really cool to challenge my own biases as an American reader. Spinning off of that a little bit, there were some other things that definitely challenged my biases as an American reader. There was at one point a mention of kind of a conspiracy theory that the government at a certain time allowed an attack, a genocide to happen within their own country to kind of spur the public to be on more of a pro-war side. Like I said, as an American, that hits a little hard with things like Pearl Harbor and the attack of the Twin Towers back in 2001. There are many conspiracies linking those two things to give those respective presidents a little more backing as far as starting and creating wars or at least entering a war. So again, very interesting, very difficult to read, but so good. I don't know how many times I've said so good in this review. I'm starting to sound like a Neil Diamond concert. Again, I don't want to spoil anything because I really want people to read these and they're so good. So if you have read these, please let me know because I would love to talk more about them. If you need any more information to get you interested in these, just let me know. I will give you anything you need to read these. So I hope you enjoyed my little nail art tutorial and I hope you read these. And thanks so much for watching and I will catch you on the next video.